Entrepreneur MBA podcast purpose is to help existing business owners grow their companies past the 10 million in revenue per year benchmark. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik. Over the last 25 years, I've built 6 companies in the $5 million to $25 million range, and I can't tell you how important it is for a business to have a line of credit so that they can make an investment in their business or even for unexpected emergencies. Our line of credit program is easy to understand, easy to get in place, inexpensive when used, and costs nothing to set up, making it a great cash backup plan that every business should have in place. If you would like to learn more about our line of credit program, please visit us at fscreditline.com. That's FS as in Financing Solutions, creditline.com, or give us a call at 862-207-4118. If you apply today, we will even give you a $250 credit on file that you can use when you use your line. Just remember, the time to set up a line of credit is when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, you have it ready to go and you're approved. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Steve Edwards from Premier Virtual. Steve Edwards is the founder and CEO of Premier Virtual, which specializes in virtual career fairs. With their extremely easy user interface, hosts can have their events set up within minutes and ready to go live within 24 hours of selecting the date and time. Premier Virtual has perfected the virtual career fair by providing employers with completely customizable booths and with employer interactive hiring rooms that allows the employer to text, chat, and use the internal video chat to invite the candidate to a live real-time interview. Steve, welcome to today's Entrepreneur MBA podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So today's topic, which I think is a great topic. Before Steve and I went live on the podcast, I said, "Boy, your business must be booming right now." And Steve said it's done very, very well. Is virtual career fairs the new hiring standard is today's topic. And, the reason, of course, I said that is because of the COVID or the pandemic, and that, some of these virtual career fairs must have really taken off because, of course, people are not meeting face to face. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about, why you got into this industry.
The industry, I don't want to say fell into my lap, but when I got out of the Army, I moved down to Florida for college. And after college, I got into sales, and I was always in sales. And then the company I was with, I traveled. I had markets in New York, New Jersey, Florida, and Texas. And I would just fly around the country and build sales forces. Pre-wife, pre-kids, kind of lived on the road. And while I was going to all of these, I was attending job fairs. So I attended every company's job fair that was out there. And then unfortunately, the company that I was working for shut down the division I was in. I didn't want to move to one of the other divisions because I was going to have to move. And I lived in South Florida. And so I went to my business partner and I said, I got a great idea. We could start putting on job fairs. He's like, job fairs, like that's colleges put on job fairs. And I was like, no, traveling the country. I went to all these job fairs, and I know a great company out of New Jersey that does a little bit different type of job fair. And I like what they do. So let's start a job fair company. So we did our research, we, put together a plan, and, we started at the time, we had bought a license agreement from an organization, and we ran job fairs from North Carolina down to Florida, out to Texas and Arizona. And these were evening job fairs geared towards sales companies. So it's very niche specific. Well, later, and this was back in 2011, and then all of a sudden in 2017, 2018, the numbers started to go down. Candidates stopped coming, right? Because they would rather apply online than wait in line. So when candidates stopped coming, companies stopped coming. So then the revenues started to go down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now at this point, I got a wife, a young child, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And, talking to one of my mentors, he brought up, what about virtual job fairs? He goes, I just landed a virtual reality company, and I think this would be a good mix for you guys to talk with them. So I was like, okay, sounds good. I'd never heard of virtual job fairs before. saw a demo of the product and I said, this is amazing. This is the future. I was like, I'm sold. Like instantly from the first demo I saw, I went on it, but the guy's price was just ridiculously expensive. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense financially what it was. So we started researching other organizations. Again, this was a world we didn't know anything about, right? My business partner at the time, that was running the business was doing job fairs for 20 years, and he had never heard of virtual job fairs. So we did our research, came in, and we put some money in. We said, okay, we're going to test the market. So we tested the market, and I instantly said, I don't have to travel anymore, because I would do a job fair in West Palm Beach tonight, Tampa the next week or the next night. Then I'd have to go to Orlando and then Jacksonville, then fly up to North Carolina and then drive from Raleigh to Charlotte and then take a flight to Atlanta and do the job fairs. And I was like, now I could do a job fair in the entire state of Florida at one time and be sitting at my desk and have organizations and attendees from all over. So we tested it. I fell in love. The organization out of Jersey didn't like virtual job fairs. They were in person was the only thing. So we parted ways, right? A good part. He stayed in person. We went virtual. And then after 10 events on some other platforms were out there, it just wasn't what we wanted, wasn't what our clients wanted. So I said, we're going to build Premier Virtual. So December of 2018, I announced that at a LinkedIn local, we are going 100% virtual. We're going to do virtual job fairs. And all the LinkedIn local, they were recruiters that were there for and they were like, yeah, recruiting's never going to work. Recruiting's never going to work, on virtual. And I was like, it's going to work. I talked with my wife and I said, I'm putting everything into this. We're going to build our own platform. She's like, whatever you think. And I was like, maybe a struggle for, a year while we're building this. But, and we kind of planned that this might take 3 years to change people's minds, right? A year to develop the software, getting our name out there, getting to change their mind. We had a small base of clients, right? And just two small regions. Well, we started developing the software in January of 2019. August of 2019, we started to test it. So we started to run our first job fairs. November, I said, I'm going to change the business model completely. I'm not going to put on job fairs anymore. I'm going to license my software so that more organizations can come in and do national hiring events, because that wasn't something that was really being done. People weren't thinking about that. So I said, let's license the software. So we switched from a job fair organization to now a SaaS platform. And in January, we landed our first big client. January of 2020, landed our first big client. The Florida Association of Colleges chose our platform over everybody else's, and their event was going to be in March. So getting there, getting ready, getting our name out there a little bit more. COVID hits in March. So COVID, suddenly we went from a no-name company to our phones ringing. And, we went from a team of 3 to now we have a team of 22 on staff, plus we have another 10 contractors. So we grew tremendously from April to where we're at. From April until December, we put on over 2,000 virtual job fairs. And they were from the small events, one company that did, multiple locations, to national events, to one job fair had over 15,000 job seekers on it. So, now we're here today, and that's kind of how we got to where we're at. We're just launching our second version of our software right now.
Think it's time to sell yet?
If somebody came in with the right offer, absolutely. I turned down one offer already, just because it wasn't there. We bootstrapped everything, so there's no investors behind us or anything. So it's kind of, if it was the right number, but I always look at any businesses out there, and obviously you're successful, right? Starting 6 businesses. I look at a business has really 3 options that's going to happen. It either goes out of business, which we don't want it. You build it so your kids could take it over one day, or you build it and you sell it. So my mindset is kind of as, hey, if I build this so that my kids can take it over, and that's the mindset every decision I make is, so this is a long-term decision, long-term of what we're doing. So that one day if my 2 boys could come in and take it over, great. But if somebody comes in and says, here's the right number for you, it would make sense. Yeah,
there's been I've been in the 4th model of that. Not that I like it, but the fourth model for me has been I run these businesses into the ground in essence, where I know that sounds unusual, weird, but they're businesses that the multiple that you would sell it for isn't kind of worth it,
Right.
and so you just keep running them, and you build it so they're self-sustaining, so that I don't have to put a lot of time, my own personal time, into it. I think there is a fourth model, which
Okay.
is you run it, it produces great income. And because let's face it, I mean, the longer you stay, we can use your company as an example. The longer you stay in this marketplace, the more competitors are probably going to enter.
Correct.
Right. So in essence, it dilutes what is someone buying. They're certainly not. They may not be buying the technology because the only thing that you have advantage of is you have experience and you've added some great things that might take someone else a while. But there also could be a disadvantage when your technology that you've built your platform on has been outdated, has become
Correct.
obsolete, and you don't want to go to a new technology, a new software, because it's a huge rewrite, And so, yeah, I mean, it's just my opinion. I barely know your business, and this isn't the purpose of this podcast, but
But you're 100% right on that. I mean, we've
yeah,
already seen it, since COVID hit. Now it's the cool thing to jump into virtual.
yeah,
So, and I hate to say it, right? We got lumped in that as well because, we went live right before COVID. And a lot of people don't understand, right? To build a technology, it's not something you do overnight, right? This was being built for a year to be able to do what we wanted it to do, and now again, on our second one, we're, almost 10 months into developing that one as well, because we took all the technology that I don't want to say lacked, but we added more things in there because there was more features, and even in my business plan back from 2018, a lot of the features that I wanted to put in, our version, we didn't have in version 1, right? Because it was a stepping stone of, okay, here's where we're going to get so that we could build this into kind of a truly all-in-one recruitment platform.
yeah. Two of the companies, two, I think I have to think of if it might have been more, but definitely two. Two of the businesses I started, it caught waves. In fact, the first three businesses I started, the whole intent of the purpose was you catch this new wave that's going up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the old adage, the a incoming tide floats all boats, right? So to start a business when an industry is going up is so much easier than to start a business when that industry is going down. And believe me,
Mm-hmm.
I've had the opposite effect too. So the idea was, one particular company that I had, which got to 6 million. I knew there was going to be a day when that company, the industry, was no longer going to be there, and we just rode the wave for several years, and it was a great company, very profitable, and I'm not going to get into details as to what caused that, but that downfall of the industry. But the thing that I've learned is to recognize when to get in and when to get out. So anyway, it is interesting. I think you got a great company and a great idea. Um, you know, uh, so one of the top things I know before I went on this podcast and I looked at your website, I thought of that I wanted to ask you about, because then I do these podcasts because I'm interested.
Wow.
I'm just curious. Is what type of people are typically, going to these virtual career fairs to get jobs? What are they? Are they lower level people? What are they like?
You get a wide range
Hmm.
because you have, with a virtual job fair and, going back to the in-person job fairs, you never had director levels, VP executives would come to a job fair, right? All the in-person job fairs were very low level because that VP would say, I'm not going to an in-person job fair. I don't want to be seen at that. There's no jobs for me at that. Where now at or at a virtual, they could have a tailored event for executives. They can have higher level. And what I really did is when I built this platform is knowing the industry and what my clients wanted and what the candidates wanted. I mean, again, we did, focus groups and sat down and find out what people want out of this? And what does a candidate want to see when they go to a job fair? And again, it doesn't matter if they're going to work at a fast food, a restaurant, or an executive level. They want to be able to see, what does a company do? What kind of jobs do they have? Can they submit their resume? Can they research their company? Can they chat in the video? That is what they want, right? So they'd be able to move very easily, right? And that's how, when we developed this, is we developed it from the end user, even if somebody's not tech savvy. So you can get in here, right? That somebody who's a director level could go in and see, okay, I see companies that are hiring for, sales leadership. I just click on that category, like a job board, right? In a job board, what do? Is you say, I want a title and a location. And then they can search everything. So I built that same kind of thing right in the system. So that executive or that, director or lower level position can look for a category and say sales leadership, see all of the companies, click on a company and say, okay, no, this isn't what I want to do. Nope, this isn't what I do. Hey, this is a perfect job. I'm going to send my resume. Oh, I like what they do. Hey, now I'm going to start a chat message with this conversation. So you're getting that, that range of all different types of candidates, which you didn't get in the in-person world.
So let's take a step back. Since I, of course, never been in a career fair, both from an employer standpoint and a employee standpoint. I thought that ABC company would come to you and say, Steve, I want to have a virtual career fair. And then you would go out and through your channels, in essence, and say ABC company's having a career fair for technical for computer programmers. I'm trying to make this generic.
Right.
Computer programmers in Java. Right.
Yep.
Or a whole bunch of IT technical field areas. Right. They're hiring these people. And then at 10 o'clock next Wednesday, you have the career fair and you have the HR person from ABC company and the vice president of IT and one of the employees who actually does the job on there. And at 10 a.m., people show up. Is that the way it works?
That's one aspect of the way it works. Yes. So
Okay.
You can, there's multiple aspects to how a virtual career fair could work. So we'll use your exact thing, right? I say the same thing, right? ABC Mortgage is hiring. They're hiring for, loan consultants, underwriters, software developers. They're going for all different types of positions. Now, let's just say they're doing a national job fair as well. They have remote workers. They have offices in Florida, Jersey, Texas, and California. So again, it can go out and they can advertise. Right now, one aspect is we can help market those. But a lot of times what we do is we kind of consult them on here's the best way to market to try to get the candidates there. Now, sometimes we'll step in and we'll help their marketing with them. Obviously, if we do their marketing for them, it's a different cost than just, hey, using our platform. So, and a lot of people are out there saying, I'm going to gouge these people, right? Like I will tell you, most of my competitors out there, as soon as COVID hit, they raised their prices about 10 times. So they were trying to make that quick buck where I said, hey, I'm going here as I'm looking at the long term, going in. People may say I did that the wrong way, but that's not what my business model was. But you have these companies that come in, right? ABC Mortgage is there. So now we put on the event. It gets marketed out there, national hiring event where the candidates can now come in. They can choose the city. So they could choose South Florida. They could choose New Jersey. They could go in. They could choose remote work, right? So these people can come in the virtual world opens up everywhere, right? Even people from, overseas or people, in small town Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, can log into a virtual job fair because maybe they want to move to Florida, but they log in and they choose their location. And from there, once they go to location, they can choose the category of the job. So, okay, I'm looking for software developers. They click on software developers. Now they're talking to that recruiter that is looking for software developers. Okay. So we made it efficient. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the second way that you can do it is we have an organization like Career Source Palm Beach County. So Career Source, every state has something called the Workforce Development Board. Massachusetts, New Jersey, everywhere has, right? So Florida has, and we'll use Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County has it, and then they have jobs in all different industries. So when that candidate logs into the job fair, they see, hey, there's a job fair, there's 1,000 company or 1,000 positions that are hiring for it. They log into the job fair. So if a candidate comes in and all they see is just a big list of companies that are there, and let's say they're looking for a marketing job, they click on the first company, it says sales, second company accounting, third software development, fourth sales. By the time they get to the fifth company, they're like, there's nothing here for me. I'm leaving, right? And there may be 50 companies that they're going to go to, but they're not going to click on every single one. Even though it's very easy to see what they do, candidates get frustrated, right? We live in a world, everybody wants anything, immediately. So what we do is we build the categories. So now we have sales, marketing, software development, this. So now that candidate comes in and say, hey, I'm looking for a marketing position. They click on marketing. They only see the companies that are hiring for marketing. So now they go in and they talk. Now, on the backside of this recruiter that's hiring for marketing is not talking to people that are looking for software development jobs, because it makes it efficient for them too, because people aren't wasting time, right? If they're looking for marketing, they're not going in the software development side. So they come in and that candidate sees them, and then they see what the company does. They see their jobs, they submit their resumes, and they can start chatting and go instantly into a video interview. So it's very efficient, either from an individual company that is doing job fairs, or to a company that's putting on large job fairs, like the one that had 600 companies and 15,000 job seekers. That can't be done in person.
Yeah, I wonder if I think the thing that frustrates people the most. God, I've been interviewed for a job in 30 years. Right. But I know the thing that frustrates the employee the most, if you're talented, let's face it, is, going on 7, 10 interviews, having to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. It takes a lot out of you. And, so is there a way for you to, I know, to have one person interview, let me use that interview question, that interview thing, and I'll explain in a second, interview with 10 companies at the same time, but have generalized questions so that, not, so you don't have the recruiters asking all these different questions. So like, it would be like me being in a podcast with you right now, with 10 other podcasters like me. And did that come into thought process?
Yeah. So we have, and that's a great question, because that's something that's in our new technology, is when a candidate creates a profile right now, and out there a lot of times, what happens, they talk about applicant tracking systems, right? Candidate comes in, if you don't have the keywords in, you're not going to get through, right? Because they scan it, they look for the keywords, and back, when I was in the in-person job fair world, I used to tell people, here's how you get around that. You take your resume, you don't just take your resume and spam it out to everybody out there, right? Because that's just, people are going to call you, it's not the right fit. But if you want that job, especially the talented person, you want that job, you go and you look at the job description. Then you take that job description. Now, you're not going to copy that job description, but guess what? You say tomato, I say tomato. It means the exact same thing, right? But, you may not get, because of the title, what your title was at ABC company means something completely different at XYZ. So you're not going to, all of a sudden it's going to pass on your resume, even though it's a perfect fit. So I would tell them, take your resume, take what they did, and make it yours, right? Your word, what you did, but based on their job description, because that's how you can get through this ATS. So I've never liked that automated system. So what I did is, I believe a candidate is more than a resume. So when that candidate creates their profile in our system, is they create their bio. So they put a bio, right? Just like their cover letter, but they have a bio that every company can see. From there, they put their bio, they put in all of their past job descriptions. So it's like they're clicking on the box so the companies can see this, right? So that's step 2. Step 3 is we have interview questions, agnostic questions that are basic. Doesn't matter if you're applying for NASA or McDonald's. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you're looking for, and a couple other questions that are out there so that these candidates can have a live video interview that they're recording in the system. Now, each one of the companies can go in and see the resume, the bio, the experience, and watch their videos. So now when that candidate comes in, they can say, hey, these are the 10 candidates that I want to talk to. So it does exactly what you're saying on there. And then when a company says, we're interested in that candidate, the candidate, it's tracked in there, my journey. So the candidate knows, here are the companies that are interested in me that want to schedule interviews with me. So it kind of does that.
Yeah, I share something with you. 2 of my companies were staffing companies.
Okay.
And so one of the companies was called Expert Seeker, and we placed really high-end technical consultants on temporary assignments in real big Fortune 500 companies. And so when I got into that, I wasn't really exactly a technical guy. So which, getting into fields I knew nothing about never stopped me. But I thought one thing you just said, what I thought was really true. One is my clients who were doing the interviews knew more about the technologies than I did. So I said, how can I push this information to them and so that they can be better at making a decision outside of the resume? Mm-hmm. Because the resume, like you said, especially from a technical standpoint, these guys and these people, guys and women, both, a lot of people suck at putting a resume together. And so I went to get a patent on something that I had thought of called e-resume. And this is 20 years ago, and more than that. But what it was a recording of somebody answering generic questions. And back then I was using MP3. That was the new technology,
Yeah.
compressed files.
Yeah.
But it wasn't video. It was just audio.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it patented. And when you find out about patents, how expensive they are to get in the process and stuff like that. And after about $10,000, I don't think it was that much. At 6,000, I think I dropped it. I said, but that was always in the back of my head. And then along came much later LinkedIn, which I wouldn't say it did the audio part, but it kind of fits into the theme of what you're saying. A resume doesn't exactly tell you about the true candidate. It doesn't tell you about their people skills or communication skills, all these other things, nor does a video tell you about I think it does tell you a little bit about their people skills. So, what are the type of things that you think your company are going to add going forward, the big picture?
So we want to be able to have this organization or Premier Virtual. Kind of my roadmap of what we have is we are just, as we are speaking, it's getting develop a networking lounge so that candidates can go in and talk with each other. Because like at job fairs, sometimes candidates talk with each other because maybe this candidate interviewed for a job and it wasn't a good fit, but this one is a better fit for them. We're continuing to upgrade the video resume piece. To me, that is a big piece. Now, if you go kind of where you said, right, the MP3s, if you go back to 2012, 2013, I had organizations come to me and they're like, hey, we got this new technology. It's video resumes. And this is going to be the new thing. And I'm like, okay, do you want to come to my job fairs, right? You have your people make the video resumes and then they can go from there. And it was one after the next, they all went out of business. It just wasn't a market for it then. And then I had an organization come to me and he was creating a veterans job board, and me being a veteran, he's like, Steve, I want you to be on the board, help me build this company. And I was like, okay. He's like, and we're going to do video resumes. I go, no, you're not. It's not going to work. I go, I'm watching these companies go out of business. I said, it's a great technology, but it's not working. Right. But it was the timing of it. At that point, it wasn't ready. Now we built it into our platform because people can continue to have, ask these questions to be able to have that. We want to be able to have where it's the virtual hiring rooms. So your enterprise clients out there that have, 500 company or 500 offices can have their own virtual hiring room that's open 24/7. That's a big thing going forward, having it so that they're using it almost as their own internal job board, where they can have this. Companies doing national job fairs. That wasn't something that was talked about years ago besides, the big guy out there, Amazon, right? And if you look at Amazon in 2018, they said, we're going to hire 10,000 people in a week. 2019, we're going to hire 30,000 people in a week. 2020, we're going to hire 100,000 people, right? Because they thought the big picture. But these other companies out there, I had a call with a client a couple of weeks ago, and they've been a client of mine for 9 years at my job fair. And I said, hey, why don't we do a statewide virtual job fair for you, right? Florida State, in the entire organization. They're like, you can do that? We never thought about this. And this is a national, huge company, but they're not thinking, right? Because so many people think, okay, here's my local area. Here's what I'm going to recruit in. But when you start doing the national events, that makes national news. The U.S. Army chose our platform this year, and they did their 35-day recruiting event, which was kind of cool. I'm not going to lie, because I remember when I went into the Army, I watched these big laser discs as I sat in the recruiters, and as we were going over everything with with the top of the line of what was going to happen in the platform, I go, this is kind of cool to think. I looked at a big laser disc. One little thing, and then you had to take out the big laser disc, put in the next big laser disc, and this is what we would see. I go, and now you're using my platform, and a candidate can click on a box and see every MOS and job that's out there in a less than 30 to 45 minutes. So continue to make it efficient, always adding new things that's out there. I mean, the market changes a lot now. With somebody comes out and they say, hey, here's a cool new idea. Well, then all of a sudden you're like, how do I integrate this, and how do I stay ahead? Because, we talked about earlier, right? The competition, right? Competition is coming out, and a lot of people think out there is, hey, here's some cool technology, right? This is going to be great technology, but they don't think about the end user, right? I may not be, right? These trade shows, virtual trade shows that are selling, hundreds of thousands of dollars to have this trade show, to have a little person walking around and be able to go in that. That's not a job fair one, right? That doesn't work, right? You got to make it sexy, but easy for that end user, that they can go in and see what they want, right? Also, that recruiter has to be easy in giving them, data. We give more data than people can have, and we're adding new analytics as we speak, so that people know how long a candidate is in a booth. Right. And I never liked that before, because I don't believe the time in an event means what was more successful, because somebody could come in, see the 5 companies they want, schedule their interviews, and then somebody else could be in there all 3 hours of the event. But all they were doing is they were logged into the event, but they had their feet up, kicked up watching Jerry Springer the whole time and on the phone. So I didn't like the time, but being able to give these organizations analytics is the biggest thing. And that's what our clients love. I mean, we have live reports, so they know what's going on every single minute of the event.
I love it. I would love that business. One is a SaaS business, which is fantastic. So SaaS is software as a service model, which one thing I love, I own a SaaS business. It's very, very, very small. And I've had it for 15 years, and it just throws off revenue, but it's just great. And my business partner and I, we were talking about starting another company, and, we were like, let's look at SaaS as a model because it fits our lifestyle that we kind of want. So, I mean, I just love it. I tell you what I love about a SaaS business like yours, and that is you can come up. I tend to be an idea factory, and I'm good at implementing the ideas, but you can kind of always improve your business with SaaS businesses. Like one of the things that you were talking, I was thinking about was, like dissecting the interview and then making it different and new and more productive. So like, for example, is what happens in an interview, you always say, okay, well, you worked for ABC company. Tell me a little bit about what you did there. Because, if someone says they're a Java programmer and they worked on this application, they don't put everything that's involved in that type of work that they did. They don't talk about the middleware and, I'm getting a little technical here, but all this other stuff that they did. They don't talk about the teams that they were on and what they had to do and the challenges they had to deal with. And that's what you ask for in the interview. Well, if somebody had the ability to just click on a button and get into real detail about what they did on that assignment. Now, again, I can be a talker, so I guess I would do well in creating my resume and talking about the assignment. But if you can mimic that so that someone in your IT department, and again, I'm using IT, but someone in your IT department would say, oh, he worked on Java here, and click on the button and hear him talking, on demand, so I don't have to schedule a time to speak to the candidate. That's a powerful capability. And so, I mean, that's what I like about your business, that, you can come up with a million ideas to reinvent how to hire people.
Absolutely. And, that's one aspect, right? You're talking about IT. Developers, and I had to learn how to talk to developers. I say that, how you talk to a salesperson and how you talk to a developer, it's a little different, right?
Yes.
And they have a complete different language, and I'm on the interviews with my director of IT, and somebody will say, hey, we have Laravel experience. That's what, our platform is on. So this is great. And he'll go, what number Laravel?
Yeah.
This happened last week. And she was like 4. And he goes, yeah, you haven't worked on Laravel in a while. Right. So instantly know, right, if you have somebody write that resume, says Laravel, hey, this is great.
Yep.
But once you get into it, it's the tech aspect of, what stacks have you worked on? What have you done?
Yeah.
Right? So learning, right, is I had to learn that language as well in the business. And I don't understand 100%, right? I'm that guy that, is comes from a different world as I built this company, because here's the idea, but then I put the people around me that know everything so that we can get through there. But you have to always reinvent. And like you said, right, hit a button to be able to watch that person. But now if you take it a step further as well is, if that resume comes in, right, what happens? The resume comes in. Okay, this looks good. Let's schedule an interview, right? The old school way was, hey, bring them into the office, right? So now you're going to schedule about 30 minutes with them. And you may find out, right, on the development side, this person is full of it in the first couple minutes, but you had 30 minutes blocked off. Now what you can do is, you're not asking to leave. And a salesperson, I might say, hey, this isn't the right fit. I can feel this isn't going to be a good fit, right? But on here with the virtual aspect is they can watch the video and they can say, okay, here's the ones we feel are a good fit. Now we can do a quick video interview, right? And I know a lot of people use Zoom in this, but if you're talking about in the virtual job fair world, it's that going from that candidate coming through and then chatting and getting into a video, that's not meant to be that long, drawn out 30 minute to an hour interview. It's quick. What kind of person are they? Do I want to move them to that next step, right? So you watch the video, you have a quick video with them, and then you can move them to the next step. So these virtual career fairs are bringing in hundreds and thousands of people, or hundreds or thousands of people, and they can weed through them pretty quickly to say, okay, here, watch video, had a quick video. Now here's who I want to bring into my long-term things. So it makes it efficient, because everything out there is, time, efficiency, and that's what recruiters want, right? They want to be able to move that.
Yeah, I think that there's another angle too that I thought about before you came on. And I'm like, for some reason, I've always been interested in, I think the number one thing that builds a company is culture. I think it's the number one, the culture, the personality of the company, identifying that early, reinforcing it, and hiring people that fit into that culture. But now with virtual, and let's go way after COVID, I think it's obvious that remote work is the new standard for a majority of people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That working in an office is just not, and any company that I think, as much as I think that culture and building it in person is critical. I think that if companies don't offer if they don't do virtual work for hiring for their people, you are going to miss out on a huge swath of talented people that you can pay less for. So I think, so what I'm trying to say, I'm very interested in this idea of remote work and how it's going to change businesses. By the way, my idea is that a company owner, if they go in that model, is going to have to spend a lot of time, more time, intentionally building culture virtually. And so, yeah, and I know you're shaking your head, yes, and up and down, yes, and I think so. What I'm trying to say is, I think if you have to use virtual career fairs to reach those people that you're going to allow to work remotely in Wisconsin, or I just got back from South Dakota on vacation, and you can get someone out in South Dakota who is really talented, who doesn't want to leave his state, and
Yep.
pay him 2/3 of what you were going to pay someone in South Florida, and they're going to stay with you because you accommodated the idea that they can work virtually. Now, of course, the problems come into managing them, and that's a whole different story. But that's why I'm excited about your idea, your company, and for our listeners too, to say, move to hiring people virtually, because they'll keep them virtual and you'll have a competitive advantage.
You have to be remote work right now. You have to.
Well, right now you have to, but I think in a year from now, when this is hopefully behind us, hopefully it's a year, I think there's going to be, I think that's the new norm. You got to be able to let people work virtually. And of course, the biggest problem, Steve, I think you would agree, is how to manage people virtually.
It is a challenge. So I have staff that comes in every day. I have staff that comes in a couple days a week, and then I have some that never come in that work outside the state. So you touched on culture, right? Culture. I believe sometimes you can hire for culture, right? Come in, somebody's going to fit in with the team, and I don't care, right? If you look at my sales force, I have somebody from every race, every religion, that's here, right? And we have young, we have old, or older. So it is, it's a big mix, right? A melting pot, but we all enjoy working. We all learn from each other, right? And that's kind of the big thing, is because how do you take, and I'll say it, back when COVID hit, we had the office, we had a couple new people that had, just started to come in and said, you got to go work from home. And I had one person that she's still with me, right? She is now an account manager that takes care of all of our clients. We had another person that he'd jump on the calls and he's sitting in bed every morning conference call. And we're like, dude, what are you doing? He's like,
wow.
Oh, well. And I'm like, well, all of a sudden you can see, right? That production, he was phenomenal in the office. You put him at home, he didn't want to work. So, we were sitting there, and I think everybody comes in and says, right, and maybe I'm wrong, but I look at the good in people and say, if you're a hard worker, right, you're going to be a hard worker wherever you go. It's kind of a mindset, right? If you're lazy, you're going to be lazy, right? Like I always tell people when they come in, I'm like, listen, I can teach you the product. I can teach you how to sell the product. I can teach you about our company. What I can't teach you is hard work. I can't teach you, how to not be lazy, right? If you're lazy and you have a bad attitude, I can't do anything. Either can Tony Robbins or Tony Orton, right? We can try, but you have to come in. You have to want it, right? You have to have, a work ethic. You have to have a positive attitude. And those are things that I look for more than experience. Like if you look at a lot of my team out there, they may not have had the most experience in the position they're in, but they fit what we wanted at the company. And then they came in and then we moved them around into different positions to what fits where their experience is a little bit more. Building that too on the remote, like you talked about, I don't love, right? Everybody's doing, right, happy hours a lot on Zoom, right? And we do that. But now I said, okay, no more, right? Just happy hours, no more just a wind down today. It's actually wind down Wednesday. But when we do these, we now have agendas for our events, right? So we had one of our team, I said, okay, you two today are going to build a murder mystery on our platform. So they went out and they built a murder mystery, just like a clue game. So then they put teams together to be able to have fun, right? And it's different people in different teams, and they'll always have something different, right? Next, now, a lot of the team is big into football. So they came in and they are doing something with football teams, right? They're calling it a draft. So they're making it fun, and you can't do the same thing over and over and say, hey, at 5 o'clock, we're all going to get on Zoom or we're going to do a quick toast to each other. That doesn't build a culture, and in the remote workforce. I mean, you see people right now are saying, if you're not offering a remote position, you're already behind schedule.
Yeah, I agree.
That is people want to, I'll use Wisconsin, right? So where I grew up in Wisconsin was it was out in the sticks, right? I lived in the woods. We didn't have cable until I was 13 years old. And then they took MTV off because it was too risque. I didn't have AC in my house growing up, right? I lived in small town Wisconsin, and, people love it out there, right? Some of my family loves where they live, right? But they would never want to live anywhere else. But if they can log in and they can work remote, that's perfect. I saw a thing on LinkedIn a couple years ago about, and I don't remember the exact two cities, but I think it was somewhere in California, a beach town in California, and Columbus, Ohio. And they showed what a $2 million house looked like. Now, not everybody out there can buy a $2 million house, but they just showed that how this little shack in California, but people wanted to live there because it was California. Well, now with, the restrictions and all those major companies out there saying, hey, you can work remote. How many people from California are moving to Texas? My father-in-law owns a farm in Oklahoma, and he's like, people from California moving to Oklahoma because they want the land and they can still do their job. And all the people from New York are moving, and New Jersey are moving down to Florida, because they can work in their job back in the city, and they can be down here.
Yeah, well, certainly we're seeing a huge wave that's changing. I think virtual career fairs is if I had a big team and I was doing hiring, I would be doing it that way. So it's great podcast, very timely. I've learned a lot, and I actually I have a 21-year-old son, very, very talented, computer science major at Boston University. He's already had 7 internships in his career. I mean, so really amazing. And so, I'm going to have him listening to this because I have not introduced the idea to him about virtual career fairs for him. So one of my takeaways to him too was just to let our listeners know is also interesting. This you were saying about building your resume from the outside in. So it's just an interesting takeaway so that people can find him. Which I hadn't thought of, which makes a lot of sense. But number 2, if you're an owner of a business, you better be doing virtual career fairs. I just think you got to do it, and then certainly doing it through Steve's company. Hey, listen, it's obvious in this podcast that Steve's company really knows what they're doing. They really, he's really doing some cutting edge stuff, and I think over the next year or two, I'm sure he's has a lot more coming down. So, again, Steve's company's Premier Virtual, and it's the website is premiervirtual.com. Good stuff. I haven't had a lot of podcasts that are this good. I thought, Steve, you did a really great job. I really appreciate you coming on. So unfortunately, unfortunately, I think I could go on for another hour, to be honest with you. But, just from an entrepreneur standpoint. I would like to thank very much Steve Edwards from Premier Virtual for coming on to today's podcast. If you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend and also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And of course, if you are looking for a line of credit for your business, you can call us at 862-207-4118 or visit our website at fscreditline.com. Again, that's Financing Solutions, fscreditline.com. Steve, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
They can go right to our website, premiervirtual.com. They can see what we do, and they can schedule a demo with one of my team members and see how we can help you and your organization help recruit the right talent.
Great. And if our listeners are interested in getting any new business ideas, I tweet daily about lessons for business owners at Halasnik, Halasnik. And, I think the tweets that I really send out are really, really great. I know the one I sent out today was, I just got back from vacation. And I said, whenever you get back from vacation, you always look at the work that you're doing and you kind of reset and you say, okay, where was I spending my time and how can I change that? So that was one of the tweets that I sent out today. So I want to thank everyone for listening. And also, please get out, enjoy the great weather that we're seeing right now. It's nice to get out and, smell the roses, so to speak.
Get some fresh air.
There you go. Get some fresh air. Okay, everybody, have a fantastic day. It was really great seeing everybody, or Steve, and listening to everybody else.
Thanks.
See you later. Bye.